Hey guys, tonight we drift somewhere far from clocks, forecasts, or even roofs that leak when it rains. You're lying on a mat, woven from pandanus leaves, the smell of salt air in your hair, and every creak of bamboo around you sounds like the ocean whispering secrets. The tide breathes against the shore, the kind of rhythm that makes you feel like your own lungs belong to it. This is where a Polynesian sleep begins, not just a nightly recharge, but a conversation with the world outside your eyelids. You probably wouldn't survive this kind of sleep. Too humid, too quiet, too many bugs with the ambition of a mosquito navy. But that's okay. You're only visiting tonight. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And tell me in the comments where you're watching from and what time it is there. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You lie there as night falls over the Pacific. The air cools by degrees so slow you can almost feel time melting. Around you, the village begins its descent into quiet. No glass windows, no doors to shut. The people simply step from firelight to darkness, trusting the sea to keep its distance. They call it Moe Otechao, sleep of the wind. To them, slumber is an escape, it's an alignment. The same way a canoe must face the current, your dreams must face the world's breath. An elder passes by, a silhouette against the stars, humming a low chant that sounds like waves pulling at coral. He tells you that every gust, every flicker of torchlight carries signs. Tonight's wind smells of iron and mango leaves. He predicts rain by dawn. You think he's joking, until you notice how carefully everyone listens. Polynesians once read weather like a language: clouds, birds, salt scent, even the mood of the night air. But what you didn't know is that they also believed the body could sense it in sleep. The elders say the ocean never sleeps alone. When it swells in the dark, it calls your spirit to drift with it. Sleep isn't a pause, it's a voyage. You're supposed to listen while you dream. If the waves rise in rhythm with your heartbeat, it means fair winds. If they break unevenly, something is wrong. And here's the strange part. Historians still argue whether this was intuition, early meteorology, or sheer poetry that worked by accident. The mats beneath you were not chosen at random either. Woven tight for dry nights, loose for humid ones, allowed the sleeper's skin to speak with the air. The Polynesians understood microclimates long before weather apps, how the heat trapped under your blanket might tell you about tomorrow's sun, how a restless nap foretold a storm. It's not unlike the ache in your knee before rain, just more beautifully explained. You close your eyes, and the stars over the atoll shimmer like someone's breathing them brighter. The villagers say every star has a voice. You just need to fall half asleep to hear it. They call it the Moe Tao, the drifting mind. Somewhere between wakefulness and dream, you start to pick out patterns. The soft thump of distant surf, the creak of a tree trunk expanding with humidity, even the quiet hiss of sand as the tide retreats. All of it blends into one long sigh of the world. It's in this sigh that predictions live. A young fisherman beside you murmurs that his grandmother could tell the next day's wind direction by the way she turned in her sleep. She'd wake up facing the wind, he says, half smiling. Always. He laughs softly at the memory, and you do too. The part of you wonders if there's some small truth hiding there. You begin to sense how fragile and vast this relationship was. Human breath and ocean breath, body heat and barometric pressure, heartbeat and tide. When you sleep here, you're no longer an observer of weather. You're an instrument of it. And as the fire dies to embers, you realize the ocean has been your lullaby all along, and your dreams are already learning the words. By now, your breathing matches the tide, slow, steady, predictable, and oddly persuasive. Somewhere between that gentle rhythm, the Polynesians believed the world began whispering to you, not in thunder or lightning, but in dreams. They said sleep wasn't random imagination. It was nature sending messages through metaphor. You dream of a fish rising to the surface? Tomorrow will be calm. You dream of the fish diving too deep? Expect rough seas. You see lightning in a dream? That meant wind, the kind that tore sails or bent coconut palms. To an outsider, it sounds like superstition, maybe even bedtime folklore invented to make children behave. But when you live surrounded by water, survival depends on noticing subtleties the rest of us would sleep through. And Polynesians were masters of subtlety. They recorded their dreams like weather logs, sometimes scratched in palm bark, sometimes retold at dawn around the cook fires. Each dream was treated like data. Historians still argue whether this was symbolic or scientific. Some say the islanders unconsciously absorbed environmental cues, the air pressure shift before a storm, the scent of wet coral carried inland. Others insist it was spiritual, the ancestors themselves sending messages through sleep. Either way, both interpretations feel strangely modern. We'd call it body awareness. They called it listening. The elders would meet in the early morning comparing what everyone saw in the night. You dreamed of a canoe adrift, then the southern wind will break early. And if two or more dreamed of the same image, it was taken seriously. Some villages even had taramoe, dream interpreters, half-priests, half-meteorologists, who made decisions about fishing trips and voyages based on collective dreams. You imagine how awkward that meeting would sound in a modern boardroom. Sorry, boss, can't sail today. 3 of us dreamed of jellyfish. But to them, it wasn't silly. It was survival dressed in poetry. They didn't have satellites or barometers, but they had instinct, sharpened through centuries of noticing patterns. When storms could mean death, you didn't dismiss intuition just because it came in your sleep. There's one story from the Cook Islands about a navigator named Rangi who dreamed of a crimson bird flying backward over the sea. He woke before dawn and told his crew to delay their departure. That morning, a sudden squall tore through the channel, exactly where their canoes would have been. Was it coincidence? Or did Rangi sense the storm's pressure building and translate that tension into dream imagery? Scientists today might shrug, but the old ones would just not. He listened, they'd say. The villagers believed even the direction you turned in bed mattered. Sleeping with your head to the east was good for dream clarity. It opened the mind to light winds, they said. Sleeping to the west made dreams darker, harder to read, tangled with storm energy. You try turning your imaginary mat around, and somehow it does feel different. Though maybe that's just suggestion, or maybe the old rules still hum under the surface of sleep. A quirky little practice survives in some households even now. Islanders still teach children a short rhyme before bed. Moe moe ate rangi, moe ate tai. Meaning, sleep to the sky, sleep to the tide. It's part lullaby, part alignment ritual, reminding them that rest and rhythm go hand in hand. When you think about it, modern people dream about inboxes, missed flights, and public bathrooms without doors. The Polynesians dreamt about weather. Maybe they had the better deal. You start to drift again, and somewhere deep in that dark, you sense the way a shift in air temperature tickles your skin. Maybe your own body is already predicting something. Tomorrow's breeze, perhaps. Or maybe just another night's worth of wonder. The night deepens, and the horizon becomes a black ribbon separating stars from their reflections in the lagoon. You hear a soft tapping, 2 stones struck together, a signal from the mo'io-moe, the night watchers. These were the Polynesians who turned sleeping into an art form and waking into a science. Their role was half astronomical, half spiritual. They believed that dreams should be timed with the sky's movements, not the clocks. The mo'io-moe trained themselves to wake at specific moments of the night, when certain stars rose, when constellations shifted. You can imagine them lying in open huts, no walls, only palm rafters. One moment they're sleeping, the next their eyes open just as Hokulea, what we call Arcturus, climbs above the ocean. They record their dreams in whispers to the darkness, comparing them to the position of the stars. Historians still argue whether this was pure coincidence or a kind of internal chronometer, a natural body clock honed by habit and necessity. After all, when navigation depends on the heavens, sleeping under them might teach your body to measure time through starlight alone. Some scientists think melatonin rhythms might even adapt to recurring night patterns, but the villagers would just say, the stars wake you when they have something to say. You watch as a young watcher stirs, sitting up cross-legged, his eyes half open. He stares at the sky, then murmurs, "The clouds hide Matari tonight. The wind will turn cold." He then lies back down, falling asleep instantly, as if the dream and the waking were one continuous conversation. That's what they believed, that dreaming and waking weren't opposites, just two halves of one long breath. Every island group had its own version of this ritual. In Samoa, sleepers left a small shell beside their bed. If they woke and found it damp with dew, they knew clouds had gathered. In Tahiti, families would keep an ember burning through the night. Its color at dawn, deep red or pale orange, signaled humidity changes. You think of it as superstition, but it's remarkably similar to the way sailors still smell storms long before radar confirms them. There's even a curious belief about breathing. The Moe practiced shallow, rhythmic inhalations before sleep, imitating ocean waves. They believed it let the body merge with the wind's rhythm. Modern biofeedback studies, believe it or not, show that slow breathing actually synchronizes heart rate with environmental pressure. So maybe they were onto something long before our sleep apps started tracking